Please take your seats. Welcome everyone to this meeting of the Events, Markets and Grants Subcommittee on this week. Let's dive straight in. So, item 1, apologies. Have we had any apologies?
Thank you, Chair. We have Councillor King in for Councillor Nettle and Councillor Tomes substituting for Councillor Bolwell.
Thank you. Item 2, public questions and statements. Have there been any?
Not for this committee, Chair.
Thank you. Item 3, councillors' questions and statements.
None received, Chair.
Wonderful. Item 4, the minutes of the previous meeting, to approve as correct record and sign the minutes of the last meeting. Has anyone read the minutes of the last meeting? Do we approve? All in favour, say aye. Aye. Brilliant. Thank you. Item 5, declarations of interest. Has anyone got any interests to declare? Thank you. And item 6, dispensations.
None agreed, Chair.
Item 7, chairman's announcements. I have no announcements, so we shall move straight to item 8. Summary of Community Development Grants 2024-25. I'll hand over to you, Sarah.
Good evening, everybody. This first report this evening is a summary of the grants given by this committee over the course of this year, with this the final Events, Grants and Markets subcommittee of the year. So just outlining that we have essentially spent full budget up to 24,987, coming in just under our full budget. The outline shows that we granted grants to Dance 6.0 for £3,000, Alzheimer's Support for £3,000, Salisbury Community Circus for £3,000, and Wessex MS Therapy Centre for £3,000. Then following the following meeting in July, we have granted to Ukraine Community CIC for £3,000, Salisbury and South Wilts District Scouts, not easy to say, for £3,000, and the Disability Interest Group for Salisbury for £987. We have one remaining medium grant, which we're looking at this evening, following reporting on year 2, to grant for their year 3 activity programme. Recommendations this evening are simply to note, and this information will go out for transparency reporting and will be published. Any questions?
Thank you for the report, and thank you for the summary. I think it's good news that we've spent all of our budget. I think that's a really, well, I think it's a very good thing, isn't it? We've maximised the number of people we were able to help, people and organisations we were able to help, and I think that's
It should be noted that reporting for these grants starts at the beginning of the next financial year, so we haven't had any monitoring reports for any of those grants as yet.
great.
That is Marsh House, not Derek.
Oh,
That's all right.
Oh, you spoiled it. Well done, Paul, for reading it. Good job.
what is interesting is that was copy and pasted out of their application.
Wonderful. Right, thank you. There are no other questions or comments. Thank you. And we shall move on to the next item, which is new lottery good causes report.
So something to note this evening, I received a communication from our first applicant for the lottery today, Fear Free. They are pausing their application while they set up a mechanism to ring fence any of the funds for Salisbury-based activity. So you can expect to see this application back at the next next committee meeting. So this report asks you to consider the new applications from local organisations to become Salisbury City Community Lottery Good Causes. So we have before us Samaritans, Salisbury and District, Wildlife and Wellbeing CIC, which is a new CIC to the city, and the Devonish Bradshaw Trust. I have received all the relevant documentation and the relevant assurances as noted with Fear Free that the funding is ring fenced for particular activity within Salisbury and benefiting Salisbury residents. The Devonish Bradshaw Trust do operate slightly outside our borders, but we have full details on footfall and usage, particularly through schools, having granted them a grant previously on this basis. So the only thing to do is to look to the recommendation that each of these, excluding Fear Free, are approved as new good causes for the Salisbury City Community Lottery.
Thank you. Can I just, so sorry, Fear Free, is that, the reason is that they weren't ring fenced? Is that a recommendation?
Yeah, so when I asked them about it, I said, will the funds from this lottery benefit Salisbury residents? They went away to have a think about it, and they have some projects coming up. And so they're just, that are specific to Salisbury around training and awareness raising. So they're going to wait until they've got those in place and then amend their good cause to specifically focus on those.
Okay, great, thank you. Hopefully they do come back. They do really good work.
Mm-hmm.
I have no problem with any of the others. Any other comments, questions? Ian?
Is it Devonish?
Yeah.
Do we know if Laverstock Parish Councils?
Yes, they do.
They do.
Yeah, they are holding grants from Laverstock and Thorpe Parish Council.
Paul?
So, how long will we have to wait then for the,
Microphone on, please, Paul.
I'm just,
Do apologise.
what an excellent event, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
Fear Free. So, how long will it be before this council can decide upon an application from Fear Free, which would seem to me to be a thoroughly good and positive force within the community, if indeed we don't agree to that tonight.
So, just to speak to that, the eligibility criteria for the Salisbury City Community Lottery references direct benefit to Salisbury residents. When I asked them about that, they said that they hadn't considered that, but that they had specific projects coming up and that they would seek to be before us again. So it would be May, I think, the next meeting. So it would be May this year.
Yeah, so it would be 4 weeks, 4 months delay.
Yes, presumably. But if they've withdrawn from this case, they're ineligible. There's not a lot we can do about that, is there? In which case, if there's no other.
The other thing you could do, I suppose, is if you wanted to propose to agree them in principle until we've received that information, then they could be their good cause could be activated within, in the time frame between the two meetings.
Well, if we can do that, I don't see any problem with doing that.
Paul? Yes, I think that's fine. An excellent idea. We've got a budget. The whole idea is that we should redistribute it to as many causes as we can in the city. I spent a lot of time listening to cases and custody of example of this, and I know that there has been a feeling of swing in around that. It is the most important problem, and it's very, very focused on areas, sensitive areas of the community where we have quite a high poverty declaration as well. better. From my perspective, I wouldn't want to push this up down, the road, keep it down for another 4 months. If they are actually capable of coming back to us, I would thought that. So if it would be great.
Okay.
Yeah, happy to do that. Principal decision, like I said.
Ian? Yeah, okay. Okay, was that all you wanted to say? Oh, well then.
Your Bradshaw application, it's probably a little bit out of really this remit of what we're talking about now, but it would be nice to highlight the cooperation between Laverstock Parish and Salisbury City Parish in terms of working funds for it, just so that perhaps Laverstock working with Salisbury. It would be nice if there could be some sort of press release or...
It may be worth noting that Laverstock and Ford Parish Council currently pay us to run a youth club as well.
Well, let's make a fuss about it, just so that
Okay, yeah.
they get in the habit of seeing themselves as joint cooperators.
So I think we have the proposal on the table is that we approve all the new cause applications, including the application from Fear-Free in principle, subsequent to them coming back with projects that eligibility criteria. A mover and a seconder. All those in favour? Great, that is carried. Thank you. Wonderful. Let's move on to then item 10, community development grant monitoring.
For this section, I will be joined by Irene Kohler, who is the applicant and reporter for Silver Salisbury.
Welcome.
So just to give you a quick overview of the report before we hear from Irene on their work. £2,000 a year for 3 years. The main aims of the project were set out as to actively engage with minority ethnic communities in Salisbury, to consult them on how they might participate with other older people's activities, to increase the understanding of marginalised communities with a focus on LGBTQ. And by the end of year 3, this is a report for the end of year 2, but with 3 more evidenced in brochures and newsletters. So I think you can see from the report that there's been a wealth of activity across these areas, including engaging with Eastern European communities, the Ukrainian community, and the imminent arrival of the run by Silver Salisbury, connections with the Bangladeshi community, and work around LGBTQ awareness raising and starting those conversations with our older community. You can also see outlined in the report where the activity has spoken to our community priorities, and in particular I want to draw everyone's attention that all of this activity in terms of supporting people on low incomes is offered at a very low, really most of the time no cost to the people who are participating in it, so the removal of that barrier. From my perspective, what I can see here is work that reduces social isolation really significantly. I just wanted to speak to that. So, an overview of the work that's happened in the last 2 years.
Right. I wasn't expecting to speak, but I think for me, the chief pluses to the work we've been doing is that we've been working with older, mainly Bangladeshi, mainly women, who get left out of a lot of the conversations in their community. And they're producing life stories of how they came to the UK and how they came to Salisbury and settling down. And I was really quite shocked to discover that our outreach worker had arrived in Salisbury at the age of 5 without speaking any English, and she described to me her primary school years and learning English. The Ukrainian community, they have really set to get to know Salisbury and be part of Salisbury, as well as maintaining their own culture. And I know from my own family experience, my parents hoped to go home to Czechoslovakia after the war, and then were told, no, don't come back, don't be so stupid. And they might find themselves in the same position. And so I really feel for that group. And they're really enjoying their meetings together and the facility we've given them for the coffee mornings. And I hope that the Polish community will do the same. I've been told there are lots of grandparents here who look after their children to enable their parents to work. The LGBT work has been very interesting in that, but not unexpected, in that older people aren't willing to come out because of their earlier years of discrimination. And when it was illegal to be gay or homosexual or lesbian. And I think one of the most important things is that seniors in the city have been able to ask questions about the changing attitudes towards sexuality amongst the younger generation. And especially, I'm worried about my granddaughter and things like that, and learning the appropriate vocabulary. We've been looking for someone to work in Wilton for quite a long time and not been able to recruit an outreach worker because we were quite specific that for the work beyond Salisbury, we needed someone who lived in that community because we just couldn't get to know it from Salisbury. And I eventually had an application, and I turned up to have an informal chat with, I was going to say young man, I don't think he's quite so young, but he's not as old as me. And faced a Jamaican, and quite refreshing, and lots of ideas about what to do. He knows Wilton well. And to me, I just thought, well, this is ideal. He wants to be part of Silver Salisbury, and he's going to research the origins of the Black community in Salisbury. And I actually think most people come from Africa rather than the Caribbean, but as well as differences, there are also similarities. And so I'm hoping that we'll be able to make some move in that direction as well. That's it. And we've tried to make contact with the Afghan community, but as yet, all the people we've spoken to have focused on families with children, and I'm certain there will be grandparents around as well, but we haven't found the key to that door yet.
And before we open to any questions or comments, aims for year 3 in this grant are around the significant development of the LGBTQ conversation, which Silver Salisbury feel has been affected by there not being a Pride event or focus to connect that to in the city. And to develop connections related to the recruitment of the project worker of Jamaican heritage, to connect this project work to the separately funded connections with those people into the wider programme. A report for the project as a whole to share with councillors and with others. So any questions or comments?
Yeah, Joe, I think you had your hand up there.
Irene, I just wanted to say publicly our huge thanks to you and your very dynamic team and all that you do across Salisbury. And I know that the booklets that you publish, which I give out in my own church, and I circulate anything that you're doing. And I know it's been appreciated by our older members of the church. So thank you so much.
More comments? No, okay, so I'm happy to echo Councillor King there. it's absolutely vital work that you do, and it's really good to hear how well it's been going. I'm very happy to move the recommendation 8.1 to approve year 3 of the 3-year medium grant. Do I have a seconder? Everyone's hand went up. Pick so Joe Broom, you were first. All those in favour? That's approved. Thank you. And thank you for coming.
Thank you. On both counts today.
Right. Then, item 11, rent reduction policy review update.
So what I'm bringing to you today is the feedback from the tenant consultations. So we had the policy itself at Community Services, which was here as a background paper. And of course, Councillor Charleston was also involved with Councillor Caroline Corbyn in the kind of writing and setting the parameters for that new policy. So what this report gives you is an overview of that process, including in bold the actions taken since Community Services, which was circulating the draft policy to tenants on the 2nd of January, and then creating 2 consultation opportunities, one in the daytime and one in the evening, for those tenants, many of whom have full-time jobs and are volunteers, to come and talk and ask questions. I will say that the whole process was quite positive. People were understanding, they had some really reasonable feedback, and so what I have before you, the only people we haven't spoken to, at the time of writing I hadn't spoken to Sarah Safe at Harlem Sports and Social, but I have now. And she had no further additions to make or particular comments. And so what we have below is the tenant feedback. So I will take you through that. So in the eligibility criteria, there is a definition of net value saying that organisations will not be eligible for a rent reduction if they have a net value of over £100,000. There was a request for more definition, which Steve Bishop has provided me, which I will be writing into the policy, which is around whether net value includes assets that are not liquid, including buildings, and that will sit with outside the parameters, so we will improve that definition, or that's what I propose to do. That net value will be liquid assets and creditors. In this context, there are still some organisations that would have a value of over £100,000. So the next one was that tenants just requested. Many of them have been committees, handed down from committees. They don't actually know what the rental value of their land is. We're in the process of revaluing it. So I've already shared that information. The main piece of feedback was that in the process, they would like a recommendation on the percentage. So there's 2 points of contact in the new process. They send in an application and information for councillors to consider as exempt business in case they want to make a case that's sensitive, like actually we're struggling or our roof's about to fall in or any of those things. So that would be as exempt business. And then it would go to committee at the next one as an open piece of business. And what we're proposing is that in that first exempt, that councillors would make a recommendation on the level of, that either councillors or the RFO or myself would make a recommendation to them on what level they think they're eligible for. And so that they're not flying blind, and if they wish to make a very strong case for further subsidy in their application, then they can do. So that is the most significant proposal on the table this evening. I think that they all